Kenny Jameson here, waking up a few days before Christmas and can't get things out of my mind. Like, I'm 58 years old from Warren, Ohio. Tractor trailer driver for the majority of my adult life. Traveled the whole country, talked to people. It beat up your body bad, but that's who I am. Had many jobs before that. I was a baker. Oh, geez, that was one of my more delivery guy, carpenter, roofer. I mean, just trying to find my way in the world. The factories weren't hiring back in the early 70s. All the Vietnam vets had come home, and affirmative action had started, women's rights had started. And the state of Ohio controlled all the jobs. If anybody did more than $2,000 worth of business with the government in any aspect, that's federal, state, mostly state, county, or city, they had to hire through the Ohio Bureau of Job Service, OBES. That started getting me thinking that things weren't right here. Every place you went to apply, there's a sign up. You had to go through this government-controlled office to get a job. Well, I had to start, what did I learn in school about democracy and free enterprise? Well, in 1975, I had a government teacher named Mr. Johnson, and we actually discussed what communism was, because we had just surrendered in the Vietnam War. Some people don't call it a surrender. Some people call it just a pullout. Well, at the same time, our Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, had just went to China and opened up talks. And we all know how that ended up, that China has industrially taken us over. That's right, the country of China. They have slave labor there, whether you want to realize it or not. Compared to us, they don't have child labor laws. We trade with them, and it's not a level playing field whatsoever. And it might get turned around here. We're going to enter a trade war here, and we're going to have some growing pains from that, folks. The everything for a dollar store is going to be $2. But anyways, at least $1.35 if the tax goes on. But then you've got all the expenses that go with it. My main concern is the surrendering to China and how that affected the United States, how it turned it into fascism, which a lot of people go, oh, we don't know what that. That's where the government controls all aspects of business. You have to get a permit to go into business. You have to have licensures. It has to be up to a certain code. It has to be zoned properly. And it's like, wow, a lot of that had good logic to it. We could go with it. Slowly and slowly they revised the codes that were on the books to the point where they don't reflect the U.S. Constitution in many shapes or forms. And it's like, well, yeah, but it has happened is within our Constitution, the states have certain authorities because of the North and the South. Building code should be different in the North and the South, and there's certain things that the state controls, how they do their roads, although it's the Federal Department of Transportation, and when you're a trucker, you pay federal road tax. Who gets that money? Oh, they just disperse it back out to rebuild rest areas so they're handicap friendly. Who paves the roads? The state or the federal government? I paid federal highway use tax. Well, they dispersed it back to the states. It's like, well, why didn't you just pay the state in the first place? If they're supposed to pave the roads. Now that's a debate, excuse me, through the Department of Transportation. Well, they use some of that money for inner railroads to go from state to state. Wait a minute. Warren Buffett got some of that money? My highway use tax money? Well, it went to the Department of Transportation. And sometimes it buys airplanes. Wait a minute. It's highway use tax. There's just one example on how things get watered down. I'm to the point now in my life that this concerns me because it's affecting me directly. And it gets down to property rights. Oh my goodness, yeah, back to '08 and the housing crisis. Did it ever get solved? Did the thousands of pages and programs, oh my God, the programs to save this house, federal, state, oh, everybody wants you to save this house because they don't want it back because they ruined the market. They devalued our dollar, and then they tightened up the loans to the point where you had to be like 5 years on a job and 20% down. And maybe that was a good thing when things were booming. When the majority of the working class in this country makes $10 an hour or less. That's right. Figure that one out. There's specials on it all the time. If a woman has 2 kids, she makes more money on social programs. Well, in Los Angeles, for an example, a woman with 2 kids grosses $31,000 a year. $10 an hour is pretty easy numbers. Times 40 hours is $400 a week. Times 50 weeks in a year is $20,000 a year gross. You're lucky if you bring home 10. You're living on $1,000 a month, $250 a week. That's about what you get out of your $10 an hour. Time you bring it home, you get about $250 a week. They don't tax you quite 50%. Well, they tax you at the gas pump to get back and forth to work, and they tax you after you get your $250 to spend your money. How much do you get of it? How much do you net? Are we a free enterprise system? Is this democracy? Wow. It's democracy. We have elections. We know in 2000 that they were totally rigged and fixed. God, the president's brother was the governor of the state that made the determining factor. Florida had never been the determining factor. If it had been Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, California, we could have really went with it. It was California. They voted last, and they nominated the winner at 5 in the afternoon. Well, it doesn't. Electoral votes in California don't matter. They got 270 by now. They get cheated because of the time zone. Anyways, if you want to know where the corruption is in your local community, in which 38 states go under what the state attorney general in Ohio calls home rule laws. That means the county you live in is your county seat. They're supposed to uphold state laws, but they can make their own laws and interpret the state laws any way they want. So you even think that you have state protection where you live? You don't. It's down to the city ordinances, and if you don't like that, you can appeal it to the county, which is right in the middle of the whole county, usually. They'll uphold the city ordinances because they're buddies with them. They eat in the same restaurant. If you see a difference between county government and city government in your county, you're just gullible because your mayor knows your county commissioners pretty well. They work together. Come on now, don't be stupid. They're applying for federal grants together, so they can jump over your state capital and get money right from the federal government right to them. And believe me, there's hundreds of billions of dollars being passed out still to this day. This is how we've been operating. Farm subsidies, same thing. That's federal subsidies for your farm. Now, if you take the money, now you got to do it their way. Only plant half your farm. We'll for soil conservation, so we don't have the dust storms again. No fresh tilled land. Oh, that you'll lose your farm credit, your subsidy right now. If you want 1,000 acres and you've only been planting 500, you can't till up that other 500. No. You'll ruin the price of corn on the Chicago Stock Exchange. And then you're going to throw off the whole world economy. That's right, corn goes through Chicago. The commodities market. Much more important than New York Stock Exchange. With the day traders. And showing how much was traded every day. Oh, the economy's doing good. The Dow's up, the Dow's down. Oh, there was this much active trading today. That's all day trading. That doesn't help corporations one iota. 9 times out of 10, it devalues corporations, and then the stockbrokers try to suck off the top. They they take the profits out of a country through day trading. Should be illegal. It should be you buy a stock, you have to hold it for 6 months like a financial officer has to do within the corporation. If he wants to buy stock in his own company, the CFO, he has to hold it for 6 months. That way he can't manipulate the value of the stock at the company where he's doing the books. Doesn't happen. Does not happen. No one stops that or regulates that. His wife buys the stock. His cousin, or come on. Very good ones are Nancy Pelosi. Went into office after her campaign's leftover money, and she got into from city manager or something out in San Francisco into Congress. She had $500,000 left over that she wrote down on her financial report going in. Today, she's worth $400 million. They had to pass a separate law that congressmen weren't allowed to do insider trading. Her husband was brokering on the side from tips he was getting for her on her lunch break of the legislation they were going to pass that afternoon. Buying $1 million worth and selling it for $2 million the next day. Accumulated $400 million. The previous Speaker of the House took $5 million to pass legislation so they could fast track. Anybody familiar with that? Fast tracking. They don't need a second and third reading at Congress. The Speaker of the House could sign off on legislation and send it right to the Senate. And if it's emergency legislation like they do all the time in different committees, and it goes right to the president. They could fast track it. He could sign it, and people are considering it a consecutive order. That's just fast. $5 million Boehner took. He quit the next day. He wasn't going to do it. He wanted America to function the way it was supposed to, where you discuss it at Congress. Senate knows you're discussing it, so that you can get a feeler into them to see if they're going to sign it, so it's worth even talking about before you even bring it to the House floor. And then you send a feeler to the White House to see if he likes the idea. So you pass the law before you ever vote on it. Whippy. That's just the way they've done things there. It kind of saves time in a way. You know, before you bring any legislation to the House floor. Anyways, I'm back to that. That's the good part of democracy. That's the good part. The bad part is, can you go to court and get any federal law upheld in court? You personally, not a multi-million-dollar corporation. You personally, if you've been violated by any federal law, they broke and entered your house without a warrant. Can you do anything about that? The police did it. They didn't get a warrant. Will the judge go against the local police that he sees every day that brings him cash-paying customers? No way, Jose. No way. So can you get the federal laws upheld in this country? You privately. Now, if you've got a multi-million-dollar court, you know, they might litigate it with you and settle something out there, you know, because you can go to the newspaper. You could buy a newspaper and print your story like the Youngstown Vindicator. That's why that paper was started. A man was wronged and he wanted vindicated. Hey, I'm getting to the end of this video. I think you're getting the gist of it, of the difference between Chinese communism and the United States of America. They got Walmarts in China. They got KFCs. You can own a private business there if you do it the government way. Take the payoff. I can't do that. I'm sure that there's some good city, county, state employees that will take the payoff to let you operate your business. It's called special taxes. They got their hand in your pocket from the jump start go. But they won't help you get the right price on your raw materials. That's up to you. And enforce the laws from the people that you want to buy your raw materials from. It's a mess. Is it really a true democracy, and does free enterprise exist? Kenny Jameson, love you. Bye.